it's hard to me to have these conversations a lot of times for the general public because I don't get it twisted. If you've been following me for a while and know anything about Uncaged, we're very fucking blunt. We're very real and we're very honest and transparent. And so the last thing I want to get twisted up here is while I'm talking about the mindset shift of understanding some of these losses and understanding some of these lulls and understanding some of these valleys, right? And wrapping your head around some of these quote unquote failures is I don't want to breed an excuse for you to just keep fucking up constantly and then blame it on like, oh, I'm just fucking, I've got a winner's mindset and, I'm just, no. Like, we're still strategic here. We're still very, very coherent and know what we're doing and how we're doing it. Now, not all the times are we going to have everything mapped out, but we've now sat down, we've written out our dreams. Like we have a game plan now. We took our dreams and created them into goals. We have our goals and we created an action plan to achieve those goals. You take that action plan and then you start putting it in work. And then once you put in enough work, that dream becomes your life, right? What's going on, everybody? Thanks so much for hanging out with me on this Uncaged podcast. This is anything and everything you need to know about uncaging that inner beast inside of you. We at Uncaged are starting a movement about men surrounding themselves with other like-minded men that want to focus on being 1% better every day. We're talking about people that understand that we got to focus on the solutions and not the problems. We are men that want to actually do what the fuck we say we're going to do when we say we're going to do it. If you don't know about Uncaged or Uncaged VIP, please reach out at any time. This is my full-time focus. This is my passion. This is my dream. This is what I'm here for. I was put on this earth and kept on this earth to build Uncaged and what it deserves to be, and I appreciate you for hanging out with me on this podcast. What's going on, everybody? I'm excited to be here, excited to be back. Online it won't look like I went anywhere because this will just be the next episode. But for those of you who've been following me or paying attention to some stuff, you'll notice that there's a difference, right? Whether that's the mood, the attitude, my tone, the voice, this, that, whatever, or more specifically, if you're watching the video on this, we got a different look now, right? We're rebranding everything. It's been absolutely crazy the last few months. So this is actually my first time recording an episode in quite a few months. So I'm very, very excited to be back in the saddle and in the studio recording. And I'm really excited about this rebrand or this refocus, if you will. So, I'm not going to talk about it just now. I got to keep you guys interested. I've got an episode coming here soon that's going to spill the beans on pretty much everything that's happened in the last few months, all the good, bad, ugly, sexy, you name it. It's happened in the last couple of months, and let's call it a journey. It's been quite a journey, and I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to be where I'm at. I'm thankful for everything that's happened because for those of you who don't know, my whole right sleeve is Jonah and the Whale, right? It's my version of it, my iteration of it, and mainly because motherfucker had to learn everything the hard way, and I can relate to that. And so there's been a few things that have happened over the last few months that if push come to shove hadn't happened, we probably would have been still spinning our wheels doing the same shit, expecting different results. And so here we are, and we're going to talk more about that in another episode. But today, went to some of my VIP guys. I was like, yo, very excited to get back in the studio. What's some shit y'all are dying to hear? And one of the guys, like, immediate was like, mindset. And I was like, oh, okay, I love it. Obviously there's a huge need for that in the world, and especially amongst men and this and that. And not excluding women by any means, because my wife obviously is a stay-at-home mom, and I can only imagine the mindset that they have to have. They're superheroes, I'm telling you. But I asked him to be a little bit more specific because mindset controls everything, right? Mindset is the baseline of everything that we do, all of our interactions, all of our moods, all the way we treat ourselves, the way we treat others, the way we treat our business, the way we treat our family, like finances, faith, everything. It all comes down to mindset. And he clarified and said, specifically the difference in mindset that you have, becoming a winner versus, maybe like when you first started or whatever, like what's what's that difference? Because you've got winners, and for lack of better terms, you have losers, or maybe not losers. You just have people at the beginning of uh, their journey, and then you have people that have more experience, more wisdom, more you know real life, hands dirty, you know, knowledge on what it's taken to get to them and where they are. And again, there is you would be an idiot to think that there isn't a huge mindset shift there. So obviously, I'm somewhat paraphrasing and not using all his words, but I wanted to kind of dive into that because obviously there's something that happens to someone, any person, when they do start to seeing more wins than they see losses. Right? There's a specific not ego is in a bad thing, but there is a certain confidence that someone starts to build up. And it's funny to start looking at certain things. We've actually one of our big things inside of Uncaged is professional loser, right? That's like I made a big post about it, and it's like become, a thing, right? Like not necessarily a motto, but it's just like an underlying thing where we start to actually like celebrate some of the losses, right? Celebrate some of the no's, because it's really a very interesting mindset shift when you understand that like everything comes and everything goes. There's ebbs and there's flows. There's wins and there's losses, right? And you understanding the difference there. We were actually talking back and forth. Jacob Stoller made a huge post about certain goats, right? Greatest of all times. And I had commented on there, and it's really crazy if you start looking at some of the most celebrated people in this world that are in the entertainment industry, or whether it be musicians or bands or athletes. The athletes, and like they are considered the greatest of all times, and a lot of them have either losing records or like their rates on how many shots they take versus how many they make are not even 50-50, but they're still the greatest of all times. And a lot of that has to do with the mindset that they have of going out there, pushing themselves to the limits, knowing that if they practice more than the other, they will become 1% better. And in fact, on a call with one of my VIP guys today, we talked about that 1% differential is monumental, right? Because a lot of people at the beginning stages of things, or the losers, or whatever you want to call them at the beginning, like people look at 1% and laugh about it. Like, why would I focus on 1%? Right? Why would I focus on this or that? And you start to think about when you apply an elite level to that number, 1% becomes massive, right? Like, what's 1% of a billion? 1%, differential is the difference between boiling and not boiling, is the difference between a 4-minute mile and not, and is the difference between breaking world records, is the difference between winning a gold medal at the Olympics, right? That 1% at the elite level is huge. And understanding that it's those little bite-sized pieces, it's those little, that one foot in front of the other, no pun intended. It's those little steps that over the course of time translates to just insane amounts of growth. I made another big post about it a while ago. It's very popular to take in consideration the compounding effect or compounding growth of 1% better every day. And that equates to about 37 times growth through the course of a year if you compound 1% daily for 365 days. And I went into down the rabbit hole of doing the math of what that looks like at 10 years, right? So, a lot of the Alex Hermosis, or a lot of some of these, people that we look up to and we take education from and we learn from, one of their big things is their time horizon, right? Or the effect horizon, or how long you need something right now to deliver versus if you were able to put that threshold out 5 years, 10 years, 100 years, never in your lifetime, compound, theoretically, it becomes unrecognizable, right? Like you don't even fathom what you yourself can accomplish, because that number's crazy. But anyways, the math ended up being something ridiculous. I don't even know if like we have a name for the number in the alphabet. Like it's like a couple hundred trillion or whatever. I'm obviously making that up. Go find the post. But the principle here is the same as, you know, throughout that process, just getting 1% better every day for the foreseeable future. I mean, it's insane the impact that you can have. And going back to the mindset thing is understanding that, because, you know, some people would look at 1% and be like, yeah, it's not worth my time. It's not worth my energy. Like, why would I, you know, taking like, you know, Kobe Bryant, for example, like one of Kobe Bryant's like biggest interviews was, you know, him talking about, you know, being questioned by a former player that he played against. And the guy asked him, like, he's like, dude, I saw you in, you know, practicing before our game. It's like you came in, or I came in, and you had already been practicing for a while, right? Like you're sweaty, you're this, that. I could tell you've been just doing drill work and, you know, really putting some time in. He said, and then I got done and you were still out there and you still like kept going for, you know, extended amount of time. And he was like, yeah. He was like, I saw you walk in, and he said, I kept practicing because I needed you to understand that no matter how much you were willing to put in, he was like, I'm always going to put in more, right? And it's like that kind of thought process, because when you're talking about performing at that elite level and taking an NBA game, for example, if the score's 100 to 100 and you happen to be 1% better, now that differential is 101 to 100. That's winning the game, the championship, whatever the case is, right? Um, for you, that might be breaking the 1 minute mile. For you, that might be making your first $1 million. For you, that might be having the kid, or whatever the case is, you know, like life in general. And, you know, kind of going back to what I was saying earlier about, you know, I have gotten used to the understanding of like knowing that knows, whether it be like sales or what have you. But, you know, for those of you who've been following me, like Uncaged is now my thing. Like that's my full-time focus. That's where all my time and energy goes. And it's like, you know, if I talk to 100 guys and I only get one to say yes, that they're committed to bettering their life and getting involved with like-minded men and joining the group, like that's monumental to me, because, you know, exclude finances, it's not a huge jump financially, but if you look at the impact of that one, the one, you know, how many people's lives are they going to touch? Are they going to impact by giving value to the rest of the group? How are they going to help the community as a whole grow? Like, what does that look like? Are they going to bring anyone else in over the, you know, foreseeable future into the group and allow those people to impact and add value? And it's just, when you start looking at the ripple effect, it's absolutely insane. And the mindset part of that is, if I understand that I'm operating at this 1% level, or whatever the case is, or whatever my conversion rate is, or whatever my close rate is on, you know, reach to, or, you know, reach to impressions, or I guess impressions to reach, however you want to look at that, and then conversations, and then calls, and then closes, and whatever the case is. If you want to take that conversion rate, whatever it is to you and yourself, and whatever aspect we're talking about here, and you know, you turn it into a math problem, and you know how many no's you have to get in order to get to a yes. So now it's when you get that no, the mindset shift from a loser to a winner is, when you get that no, being upset, allowing it to affect, you know, your mental state, allowing it to bog you down, allowing it to hurt your confidence, whatever the case is. Now the shift is realizing that that is just one step closer to your next yes. And that's where the impact happens. And that's where you start to become a winner, because these losses or these setbacks or whatever are just setting you up for your comeback, right? Like, so when you start to look at some of these things that didn't pan out the way you thought they would, it is one step closer to you getting that knockout, that where you kill it. I mentioned musicians earlier too, right? In retrospect to athletes, if you think about most musicians, and I don't know what the percentage is, but if you look at how many of them shoot their shot and fucking fail miserably over and over and over for years and years and years, till finally that one time, that one show, that one person's in the crowd, that one person finds them or whatever the case is, and then boom, they become multimillionaires, billionaires, they become rock stars. They create this life that they've now accomplished. And again, if you go back and listen to any of their stories, it's pretty crazy, man. Like that rock star mentality. Um, a lot of them go homeless trying to, get in front of that one person that's going to change their life, right? And it's just that the Rocky scene over and over and over. And if y'all don't know about the Rocky movie itself, man, I didn't know this, but like he wrote that script and he went to try to sell it multiple times, and he either got turned down or then finally they were like, "Hey, we're going to give you X amount for it," and it was an absolutely insane number because again, homeless at the time because he put all his time and effort and energy into living his vision. And they were like, "But we don't want you," because in the contract he said, I want to be Rocky. Like I want to be the main actor." And they were like, "We want your script. We don't want you. We want your script. But we don't want you." And he held true and he stuck to his guns. And I mean, obviously, you know what happens next, but he kept pushing. And then finally, they were so desperate for the script that they were like, "Fine." And they offer him like a laughable amount of money for that script. But they allowed him to play the lead role, and the rest is history, And you know, it's hard to me to have these conversations a lot of times for the general public because I don't get it twisted. If you've been following me for a while and know anything about Uncaged, we're very fucking blunt, we're very real, and we're very honest and transparent. And so the last thing I want to get twisted up here is while I'm talking about the mindset shift of understanding some of these losses and understanding some of these lulls and understanding some of these valleys, right? And wrapping your head around some of these quote unquote failures, is I don't want to breed an excuse for you to just keep fucking up constantly and then blame it on like, "Oh, I've got a winner's mindset and I'm just no. Like we're still strategic here. We're still very, very coherent and know what we're doing and how we're doing it. Now, not all the times are we going to have everything mapped out, but we've now sat down, we've written out our dreams. Like we have a game plan now. We took our dreams and created them into goals. We have our goals and we created an action plan to achieve those goals. You take that action plan and then you start putting it in work. And then once you put in enough work, that dream becomes your life, right? For those of you who haven't heard my dream life speech, that's a big part of what I break down. And, so we're not just out here just shooting at random targets. One of the big things in Uncaged is, if you don't know what you're aiming for, you're going to miss every time, right? So you've got to get real clear on what it is you want and what does that look like for you, right? So I mentioned it earlier about like impact. Impact can mean many different things. Like we're not a non profit around here. Like we like money too. And we had I've had multiple conversations with some of the VIP guys actually one-on-one. And I was referring to one of my buddies who's actually been an expert of ours before. Dude's set multiple fucking world records, literally. Was named Man of the Year in Australia in, I think, 2016 or something. Damien Ryder's just, dude's a savage, but he's got a heart of gold, man. And he's just one of the most incredible human beings I've ever met and had the honor of calling a friend. And he's been and spoke to us in Uncaged, I think, multiple times now. And just super, super cool dude. Well, we were at dinner one time, and it's really strange because when I was talking to him, it's like, how do you coach this guy, or how do you get, your opinion across to him, because this dude's, I mean, multiple world records. Come on now, like, dude's just incredible. Named Man of the Year. Like, it was very, very extensive, resume he has. But like, I saw how much he wanted to impact the world, and I saw his heart and his heart of gold, and he just wanted to give everything away for free, and he just wanted to give, 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 and I completely understand that. And we're not even going to discuss, like, well, people that get things for free versus people that pay for them, and how much impact it truly has. But my thing was, like, how do we get you to an opportunity to where you can impact more people, right? And you need money to do that. And outside of fundraising, which is obviously in and of itself, but at some point that's money. That's an exchange of money. I don't care where it comes from, and if it's the people that you're selling whatever it is you are doing to, or what, you've got to have some sort of strategy to be able to leave the impact that you want. And so some of this, like, talk with some of my VIP guys was explaining what it's like when you have to understand that when you get very fucking real about your vision and your dreams and your goals and what your mission is, certain things change. And again, mindsets shift. And part of that is, if you truly believe or think that your impact is to change the world, or impact as many lives as possible. I get that. I love the modest mindset. I love the impact mindset. I love the attraction marketing mindset. I love the give, 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 give till they ask mindset. I could get all of that. But at some point, we've got to be able to control the narrative. And so what I mean by that is, like, so you've got to, if your vision is to change as many people in the world, or as many people as possible, and you're doing everything for free, and you're trying to bootstrap it, and you've got this just, modest lifestyle, this, that, or whatever, and you just want to change the world, or to give impact, but you have no budget or no funds to adequately do so. Let's say over the course of your entire life, you're able to change, 1,000 people's lives, or 10,000 people's. Okay. And we go back to the thought process of your mission. If your mission is to impact as many people as possible, but you think that the money portion of things isn't there, or whatever the case is, now let's take into consideration option B, where you do find a way to create profit or revenue, even just revenue instead of profit. Maybe it is, a nonprofit, this, that, whatever, but you have a way of creating funds to create a budget so that you can go out and basically pour gasoline on the fire to impact more people. Now we have a business model, or a model rather, that is generating funds to be able to go out there and impact more people. So now let's say over the course of your lifetime, you're able to impact 1 million people or 10 million people, right? So now that's where you start to really consider, no one asks you how much money do you want to make, or, what career do you want to have, or what type of business. Like, we're talking about impact. We're talking about what do you truly desire, right? And so when you start to get to the core of that, that's when you can start fleshing out everything that comes later. So, like, if our goal is to impact as many people as possible, perfect. Now we got to put a plan together to accomplish that. And part of that is understanding that shit's going to go sideways. Like, I don't know if it's loss prevention or whatever, but I feel like everyone needs to have a thermostat, if you will, of what risk they're able to take and not expect anything to come to fruition of it, because you're shooting so many shots that you're going to miss. It's inevitable. Like, no one has 100% success rate, in free throw percentages and batting averages. Like, you know what I mean? Going back to the greatest of all times, a lot of them fucked up more than they made it, but they were persistent, and they had that 1% in their mindset where they just kept going, and they knew if they shot enough shots, and if they shot more shots than the next, or and they practice longer than the next, and they got those reps in, that no matter what, at that 1%, at that elite level, they were going to come out on top. And that's the same thing that's going to happen here. Is you've got to really sit down and figure out what that strategy looks like to accomplish your goals, your dreams that we talked about. But you now understand that every time you miss that basket, you're just closer to the next one that you take, right? You're going to take the next shot, and that one might go in. And if it doesn't go in, guess what? You're just closer to the next, bucket. You take that next shot again. And so, man, if I could, really pinpoint the most pivotal moment or mindset, from a just getting started or loser's mindset or whatever you want to call it to a winner's, it's just that understanding that shit's gonna get sideways sometimes. And it's all gonna come down to like, how far can you bend until you break, Unfortunately, we see it, in this lifetime. We've all seen multiple recessions, and it's always been, every recession, it's always been the companies that have doubled down and have kept doing what they're doing and kept pushing forward and weathered the storm. That if you look at some of the numbers, they end up monumentally further. Not just than the companies that gave up, because the companies that gave up fucking gave up and they're done, they're out the race. But if you look at the companies that weathered the storm and they kept going, they created all those opportunities for themselves. They took over all that market from everyone else that let off the gas or whatever the case is, and they came out successful. Now, through that process, I'm sure they fucking ate a lot of shit sandwiches during that time. It's part of it. But, for us, I look at, and I don't want to get too far into it today because I really want to save the story for a future episode. But like the last few months, there's been a lot of things that have happened in our community, our industry, and our business and our life that has, at the time, instantaneously, like, felt like it was all over, right? And then there was a mindset pivot where we were like, we're at a point right now where like we used to not necessarily pray for these problems, but we used to pray to be in a situation to be able to weather these problems, to be able to navigate these uncharted waters, so it started to give me an opportunity of looking forward and saying there's going to be some things that are going to go sideways for us, personally and professionally. But how awesome is it going to be to know that we are at a point or at a place in our life where that's okay? Like where that's, I don't want to say we welcome those problems, but like we will be much further than where we are today. And part of that risk or that reward is like, we're going to take some shots and we're going to miss. And those shots, in the future are probably going to have an extra comma or an extra zero attached to them than some of the shots that we're taking today. And guess what? We're missing some shots today. Now, rewind 6 months ago, a year ago, 18 months ago, 24 months ago, the shots that we're taking now and missing would have completely killed us back then. But we're now on a different playing field. We're on a different court. Like, this is a different fucking game now. So we're still taking those shots, and we're missing some of them. And that's fucking fun, because that just means we're that much closer to the next one that we're going to make. And, understanding that allows you to look at the future and know that rough waters are coming, but it's okay. You're going to be okay. You are learning. You are earning your stripes right now to prepare you for, the uncharted waters ahead, the crazy experiences ahead. You're learning your mindset and you're learning to, toughen your skin now at this level, because you would never survive on that level. But likewise, you used to never be able to survive the level that you're playing at now. But that shit that happened to you 6 months ago was preparing you for this, right? And then 6 months before that was you were being prepared, by a previous time. So there's levels to this shit, and the only way to become successful with the mindset of it is understanding your numbers, understanding that everything you can't win without losing, and it's just part of it. And we're not gonna like talk about it today, I don't think, but there is a mindset to think about. If you never lost, would you ever appreciate your wins? Right? Like if you never lost, would you ever truly appreciate your W's? Most of us probably wouldn't, right? But again, we don't even have to have that conversation because there's no one out there. There is no one out there that has won every fucking opportunity that they've attempted. And again, going back to the greatest of all times, I would be willing to bet if we were to look, if you were to survey every fucking person that you look up to, if you were truly to interview everyone that you ever looked up to or has impacted your life in a positive way and ask them, do you think you've won more or lost more numerically, in your career, in your life? And they're probably all going to say they lost way more. But the thing is, though, is taking the value out of every one of those wins, it's undescribable on what the value of those wins are. If you truly were to think about every time you've asked for the sale or asked the girl out or done this or done that, like whatever that opportunity is to you, if you were to truly think about every time you tried and it did not go your way, like did that ever keep you from continuing on? Did that ever deter you from never doing it again? And if not, why? Right? Like if you played a video game or something and you couldn't pass a level, did you just like fucking throw the game away, throw it on the first try? Right? Like this is a part of our human nature, is to understand that like nothing worth having is, or nothing worth having is not worth fighting for. And so everything in business is like that. You got to fight for this shit, and you've got to understand that like when you go to battle, you're going to end up with some wounds, but at the end of the day, it's the ones that continue on that aren't focused on just winning the battle, but it's about winning the war. So we could probably keep going for quite some time and just talk about other aspects inside of mindset, but I don't want to beat a dead horse on this one specifically, because I did want to specifically talk about the mindset difference between someone that typically you would consider a quote unquote loser, or maybe someone that's just starting out or whatever the case is, versus someone that is now officially a fucking winner, right? And mind you, I want to kind of like leave it on this, is that person is all different levels of life, right? If you've read my book, like you'll read one of the chapters where I talk about Jay Bird. Jay Bird at the time, was making nowhere near the amount of money he's making now, but he was comparing himself to some of these multi-millionaires that he was sitting at tables at. And when we had that conversation, his mindset shifted to understanding like the level that he's at. Because what was fucking cool about that is when I was talking to him at that time, I was talking to a fucking winner. All the fucking millionaires, well, not all of them, but some of the millionaires that we were talking about, some of the names specifically, they're fucking losers. So like the judgment threshold here is about your mindset. It's not about what you've accomplished, because there's some people that have accomplished the right things the wrong way that are still fucking losers. They're still pieces of shit, or whatever the case is. And what we're talking about here today, specifically about the difference between a quote unquote loser and a winner, is someone who truly understands their goal, their vision, their dreams, and the 1% mindset, that one foot in front of the other, and understands that like every time that they or fail at some accomplishing an objective is just one more step to get it, and a chance to get it right. but now you're going to get it right quicker, smarter, because you've already seen what doesn't work. You've learned something from it, and you just keep on and you just keep on, and all you're focused on is stacking those W's. We don't give a fuck about the losses. The losses are just stepping stones from one W to the next, but just keeping at it and understanding that it's part of the process. And once you understand that, and you can actually go through a loss and not allow it to actually affect you in a negative way, that's it. That's when you know that you've made it to a winner's mindset. So I'm excited, man. Thank you for allowing me to come and speak about this. This is just a really cool experience. I'm happy to be here. My mindset's light years different than previous channels and content I've put out. I feel comfortable here. I love the studio set up here now. It's me and my accomplishments in my life and things that I hold true to me. So thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for listening to me, and we'll catch you on the next one. Peace. All right, guys, that was another episode of the Uncaged podcast, all about uncaging the inner beast inside of you. If you want any more information about Uncaged and the movement we're building and with the like-minded men just like yourself, please reach out. This is what I'm here for, and we'll see you on the next episode.